Good evening, good morning, and thank you so much for staying with CNN News 18. Thank you so much for being a part of this newscast as we present some breaking news for you. This is the Supreme Court overturning the Allahabad High Court verdict, and this ruling, which had in fact earlier held that Uttar Pradesh Madarsa's Act is unconditional. The Supreme Court has held that UP Madarsa's Act 2004, in fact, is constitutional. In fact, the apex court has clarified that madrasas running under the said act would continue to operate. A big decision there by the Supreme Court of the country. My colleague Ananya has more details about this. Yes, Ananya.
Well, definitely, the Supreme Court has now overturned the verdict that the Allahabad High Court had given, calling the UP Madrasas Board Act 2004 to be unconstitutional. Very categorically, the Supreme Court holds that this act is very well in consonance with the Constitution of India and is completely constitutional. It has also gone on to say that, there is a vital importance of the state to, regulate these madrasas. However, and I would like to quote, in fact, what Justice D.Y. Chanchud-led bench has gone on to say. The Supreme Court says that the state has a vital interest in regulating madrasas to improve standards of education. The top court bench, headed by the Chief Justice of India, also holds that regulating standards of education in madrasas, state can't violate the minority community's right, is what the top court has gone on to say. But very clearly and categorically, this is a big relief coming, in fact, to all the madrasas running in the state of Uttar Pradesh under this particular act of UP Madrasas Board Act 2004. The matter came up before the top court after, in fact, various petitions were filed before the Supreme Court challenging an order passed by the Allahabad High Court, very categorically terming the UP Madrasas Board Act 2004 as unconstitutional and, striking down that particular law. However, a challenge was made to that before the Supreme Court. A three judges bench headed by the Chief Justice of India, Dr. Justice D.Y. Chanchud, is actually hearing this particular matter, and it reserved its order and finally pronouncing its verdict. The verdict goes in favor of the madrasas operating in the state of Uttar Pradesh. However, the Supreme Court has stated that there is a vital importance for the state to regulate, in fact, the madrasas that come under their jurisdiction,
right,
to improve the quality and the standards of education that is imparted there.
Right. Ananya, wasn't it coming because in April, when the Supreme Court in fact had held that entire verdict of the Allahabad High Court, they did mention and underline this particular fact that this needs a closer reflection. And this was about the 7 petitions that were against that particular verdict, and that merited more and more discussion. And that's why we have come today where the Supreme Court is talking about how this entire act, we're talking about 2004 Act, is not unconstitutional, and that really is something that becomes very significant. How do you see this progress from here on, and in comparison to the Allahabad High Court ruling, how do we judge and gauge this one?
Well, definitely, this is a very, very significant order that is coming from the Supreme Court, and, anybody could see it coming because the Supreme Court in its first instance had stayed that particular order that was passed by, in fact, the Allahabad High Court. However, the same was, under question until and unless a final verdict comes out from the Supreme Court, which has now come out today because, this particular verdict not only, gives a teeth to the madrasas that are operating in fact, the state of Uttar Pradesh, but also, that verdict from the Allahabad High Court had put the lives of a lot of students studying in those madrasas to be under a limbo because they didn't know as to where would they go because, these were madrasas that were imparting them education since the very beginning, and hence, if that would have gone, how would, the relocation would have taken place is something that could have been a very, very key aspect. When the detailed judgment copy comes out, we'll get to know more and more reasons as to why, the Supreme Court felt that the Allahabad High Court verdict is something that is not correct in nature. In fact, the minority right has to be considered is what the Supreme Court has gone on to say very clearly and categorically. And in fact, while, erring with that particular judgment, completely saying that the Allahabad High Court had erred in terming the Madrasas Act unconstitutional as it only allowed government to regulate education, standards is what, in fact, the Supreme Court has gone on to say. Very clearly, it is a big relief coming in for the students and the madrasas that were
absolutely. Ananya, I request you to stay on with us. I'm really sorry to interrupt you there. Vinod Bansal of the VHP is with us. Vinod Bansal जी, बहुत शुक्रिया आपका हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए. सबसे पहले तो जो रूलिंग आई थी इलाहाबाद हाई कोर्ट से, उन्होंने क्लियरली ये डिफाइन किया था जो यूपी मदरसा एक्ट एक्ट है वो अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है बिकॉज इट इज अगेंस्ट द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ सेक्युलरिज्म. ऑल ऑफ दैट स्टैंड्स डिसलॉज्ड बाय द सुप्रीम कोर्ट टुडे. इसको आप कैसे देखते हैं?
देखिए, वर्डिक्ट की कॉपी मिलने के बाद एक बार थोड़ा समग्र रूप से अध्ययन करने के बाद ही पता लग गया कि माननीय न्यायालय ने क्या कहा है. और मैं कहता हूं कि जो निर्णय आया है उसको समग्र रूप से देखना होगा. और मुझे लगता है कि देखिए, जो मदरसों की सिचुएशन है और मदरसों में जो कुछ पढ़ाया जा रहा है, और दूसरी बात जो सेकुलर गवर्नमेंट्स एक तरह से कम्युनल काम कर रही है, उस पर विराम तो लगना ही चाहिए. जब हम सेकुलर कंट्री कहते हैं, सेकुलर गवर्नमेंट्स कहते हैं, तो वो किसी एक पर्टिकुलर रिलीजन के लिए एक पर्टिकुलर आइडिया ऑफ थिंकिंग के लिए ऐसा पब्लिक मनी को कैसे स्पेंड कर सकती है, ये तो बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण विषय है बेसिकली. लेकिन एनीवे मैंने चूंकि वो निर्णय भी देखा नहीं है, तो इसलिए उस निर्णय के बारे में मैं कमेंट नहीं करूंगा. मेरा कहना यह है कि सीधी सीधी बात है कि बच्चों को एक सामान्य बच्चे के रूप में एजुकेशन मिलनी चाहिए. Religious education should not be funded by the secular governments of the country. The thing is that the way the NCPCR has also submitted the reports, which also highlighted the issues being crop up in the madrasas. We have seen a lot many madrasas involving in the bomb blast cases. We have seen the reports coming in from different corners of the country, that how the madrasa education is instigating the small child and the innocent mindset to act against the country or a particular religion.
But Mr. Bansal, don't you think you are broad stroking this entire argument? And what do you think and what do you suggest should be the fate of the students who are in fact studying at these madrasas? How should they be educated, and should the state not go ahead and fund for their education, because we all know how they come from a very lower middle class or probably lower strata of the society within the Muslim community. In fact, let me take this across to Maulana Masood ul Hasan Qasmi, who is a Muslim scholar who is also with us on the broadcast. Maulana Qasmi, how do you take this decision now coming out of the apex court of the country?
Yes, that we welcome the verdict of Honorable Supreme Court. The fact of the matter is that running the madrasa education has been enshrined in our constitution. The Indian constitution has given guarantee for minority to run the madrasa, to run the institution according to their own faith. So this is as per the constitution. Constitution has given all the right to run the madrasas and religious institutions also based on their own choice of the minorities. So there is nothing wrong so far as the government fund utilizing for the madrasa is concerned. No Muslim community doesn't ask for the government fund. But our point is that there should not be dual standard. We are spending public money. We are spending public money on mandirs as well. We are also lighting up the diyas in the Ayodhya as well. We do not oppose that. But we say dual standard should not be pursued. There should not be dual standard. Double standard नहीं होने चाहिए. हम एक तरफ तो इलाहाबाद में जो वो होता है सालाना जो शाही स्नान जो होता है उस पर भी we spend the public money on that also. So if government spend some money on madrasa, that also is part of our constitution. और मदरसों में कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन भी पढ़ाया जाता है, देश का कानून भी पढ़ाया जाता है. उन बच्चों को सबसे पहले ये सिखाया जाता है कि आप देश के कानून को मानिए, आप बुरे काम मत कीजिए. डोंट गो टू लाइज, don't go to violation of the Indian law. So what is the wrong with that? कोई चीज गलत नहीं है. मदरसे में देश के नेशनलिस्ट लोगों को पैदा किया जाता है. Even the foundation of the madrasa is based on the nationalism.
ओके मौलाना कासमी, अगर आपने वर्डिक्ट पढ़ा है सुप्रीम कोर्ट की तरफ से, जो पिटिशंस थे सुप्रीम कोर्ट के आगे, उसमें आपको क्या लगता है कौन से पिटिशन है जिसमें ज्यादा वेटेज था, जिसकी वजह से ये डिसीजन आप लोगों के फेवर में आया है?
देखिए, हमने अभी उसकी कॉपी नहीं पढ़ी है.
जी।
लेकिन हम उसको फॉलो कर रहे हैं, देख रहे हैं पीछे से ही। ये मदरसे को अगर आप डिसमिस करेंगे, खत्म करेंगे, तो दिस इज अगेंस्ट द स्पिरिट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में माइनॉरिटीज को जो गारंटी दी गई है, ये उसके मुताबिक है।
Okay. Let me take this to Vinod Bansal, who also continues to be with us. Bansal साहब, मैं आपसे पहले पूछ रही थी ये बात कि एक ब्रॉड स्ट्रोकिंग हो रही है, मदरसास को लेके बहुत ज़्यादा टारगेटिंग फील कर रही है मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी, और अब जो ये वर्डिक्ट आया है, जो अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल करार दिया था इलाहाबाद हाई कोर्ट को, उसको सिरे से खारिज किया है सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने। तो ये जो लॉजिक है जिसको आप भी प्रेजेंट कर रहे थे, ये भी कई हिसाब से, कुछ हिसाब से बेबुनियाद साबित हुआ है आज कोर्ट में।
नहीं, देखिए, दो बातें बड़ी महत्वपूर्ण हैं। एक आपने जो मौलाना साहब ने जो बात कही कि भाई ये जो कुंभ का शाही स्नान या कुंभ का आयोजन और मदरसा, ये दोनों में बिल्कुल जमीन आसमान का अंतर है। एक तरफ एक कल्चरल प्रोग्राम है विच जनरेट दी रिसोर्सेज, मनी, कल्चर एंड एनकरेज द सिविलाइजेशन ऑफ द कंट्री, और दूसरी तरफ जो है वो एक बच्चों को एक जिहाद के मार्ग की तरफ ले जा रहे हैं, एक पर्टिकुलर रिलीजन को पढ़ा करके बच्चों को जो नॉर्मल एजुकेशन से अलग कर रहे हैं, बच्चों को उनकी बचपन से अलग कर रहे हैं। तो वो सब चीजें ठीक नहीं है। बेसिकली मैं कहता हूँ कि बच्चों को, सामान्य बच्चों की तरह सारे बच्चों को एक साथ क्यों नहीं पढ़ाना चाहिए, सबको एक साथ डिसिप्लिन क्यों नहीं दिखाना चाहिए, सबको एक तरह के समान शिक्षा क्यों नहीं होनी चाहिए। तीसरी बात ये कि देखिए, जो मदरसों का करेक्टर है, ये मौलाना कह रहे हैं कि भाई ये कोई रिलीजियस, मतलब हमें भी राइट है। मैं कहता हूँ राइट सब है, लेकिन राइट ऑफ सेपरेशन नहीं है आपके पास। यू कैन नॉट एक्सरसाइज योर राइट बाय सेपरेटिंग योर चिल्ड्रंस विद अदर चिल्ड्रंस। You can separate the children of the
Bansal
country.
sahab, you are essentially suggesting that all
religions.
the children of the country need to require and need to acquire proper education. It needs to be similar on the grounds. But what do you have to say about the monetary standing of many people? And let's put religion aside for a bit and just talk about that. Don't you think people of a particular community, if they come out and probably help out these students, they receive a basic education? Now, and again, I'm going back to the same question. You're broad stroking it. You're only calling it that they're going towards a different sort of a path, which is not a path of education. But the Supreme Court has categorically denied all of these allegations.
No, you see, the Honorable Supreme Court is saying something else. I'm saying something else. I'm not denying or objecting to the verdict of the Honorable Court. The question is that we are discussing the broader activities being held in the madrasas. Number one. Number two, the state funding should not be there to the madrasas. Actually, we are totally against it. It may not be.
Okay, मौलाना मसूद कासमी, कितनी स्टेट फंडिंग है मदरसास के लिए अगर हम उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार की बात करें, और कितना ज़कात से पैसा आता है मदरसास के लिए?
देखिए, ज्यादातर जो मदरसे चलते हैं वो पब्लिक ही और मुस्लिम ही अपनी ज़कात देते हैं, अपनी गाड़ी कमाई, अपनी मेहनत की कमाई से मदरसों को देते हैं। उसमें वो बच्चे दीनी तालीम पढ़ते हैं। बहुत ही कम कुछ मदरसे हैं जो गवर्नमेंट फंडेड हैं, जिनको गवर्नमेंट फंड देती है, और ये कोई वो नहीं है। हम देखते हैं हिंदू भाइयों में भी गुरुकुल है, आरएसएस गुरुकुल चलाती है, बच्चों के स्कूल चलाती है, और इसी तरह से विद्या मंदिर है, उसको भी सरकार फंड देती है
जी।
क्या वो रिलीजियस स्कूल नहीं है? क्या वो रिलीजियस इंस्टीट्यूशन नहीं है? क्या उनको गवर्नमेंट फंड नहीं देती है? तो ये डबल स्टैंडर्ड क्यों? बंसल साहब जो कह रहे हैं, अगर ये भी कहें कि भाई गुरुकुल नहीं चलाने चाहिए, उनको भी गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से फंड जो सरकार देती है आरएसएस को वृद्धि, वो भी खत्म कर देना चाहिए। तो एक तरफ से वन साइडेड सिंगलिंग आउट इज नॉट गुड, इट इज नॉट, ये गलत है। सिर्फ एक ही कम्युनिटी को आप सिंगल आउट कर रहे हो, इसको गलत है।
ऑलराइट,